Most people try to figure out if someone is natural or not by looking at them. If they're below the line, they're natty. If they're above the line, they're not. But the problem is, people draw that line in very different places. Some people draw the line here, at Will Tennyson. Others draw the line right up to, but not including, Simian Panda. Believe it or not, a lot of people still think that The Rock is natty. And recently, millions of people fell for the Liver King scam, buying that his physique came from his ancestral diet and not the $10,000 monthly steroid cocktail. So it's understandable why so many people don't believe influencers anymore. And it's also understandable why there's so much disagreement about how big you can get without steroids. Even within our own community, people are not on the same page about this. And it's leading to some absolute dumpster fire debates.
The fake natural epidemic is getting worse.
Never played a sport in his life and then just blew up like an IFBB pro. That's how that works.
So in this video, I'm diving straight into the dumpster fire. And I'm taking 3 tools with me: history, science, and common sense. And using those 3 tools, I'm gonna give my final answer to the question, how big can you get without steroids? Steroids are, for the most part, different flavors of testosterone. Tren is testosterone, with this carbon atom removed. Nandrolone is the same thing, but with a few less double bonds. And testpropionate, enanthate, and cypionate are all literally just testosterone, with an ester chain added at different lengths, which impacts how quickly it's released into your system. So the first step in our natty or not journey is figuring out when steroids actually became available. That way we can look at the most jacked guys from before then and know with certainty that their physiques were achieved naturally, because the drugs didn't exist yet. All right, testosterone was first isolated in 1935 by a Dutch pharmacologist named Ernst Lequeur at the University of Amsterdam, where he took literally thousands of bull testicles, mashed them up into a pulp, and squeezed the testosterone out. By the early 1940s, a few psychiatrists started experimenting with that testosterone as a potential cure for what they were calling male menopause, which is basically just depression and low sex drive. It actually worked too, but testosterone still wasn't publicly available, and at this point, no one actually realized that it could be used as a performance-enhancing drug. It actually wasn't until the 1952 World Olympics in Finland that people finally realized that testosterone could make you bigger and stronger. That's because, out of nowhere, Soviet weightlifters suddenly and suspiciously took home 3 gold medals. And with that, the very first natty or not scandal had begun. A couple years later, in 1954, the bodybuilding world's misadventures with steroids officially began when Dr. John Ziegler went to the York Barbell Club in Pennsylvania and injected John Grimmick with his first shot of steroids. And the rest is history. So, based on all this, I think it's safe to say that in all likelihood, American bodybuilders weren't juicing before the 1950s. Which means that this physique from 1947 was built 100% naturally. In this photo, Steve Reeves is 21 years old at 6 foot 1 inches tall, 215 pounds, and what looks to be around 10, maybe 12% body fat. Now, he actually wasn't the biggest guy that I could find from this era, but I do think he was the most aesthetic. And the real reason that I picked Steve Reeves as an example of a natural bodybuilder from the pre-steroid era is that literally everyone agrees that this physique is 100% achievable naturally, right? Right? All right, well, there are a few skeptics. I guess these people think that Steve Reeves, a 21-year-old from Montana, found a steroid plug before the US Olympics team at a time when the US-Soviet rivalry was at an all-time high. But you know what? Let's entertain the extreme skepticism and go back to before Ernst Lequeur ever isolated testosterone. The most jacked person I could find from this era was this man, Eugene Sandow. To this day, this is who the Mr. Olympia trophy is named after. This photo was taken in 1897, 6 years before the airplane was invented. He was 5'9", 185 pounds, at around 10% body fat and 100% natural. But the 1800s were a long time ago. I mean, gym equipment looked like this, and this, and okay, this is actually a pretty cool lat pull down, but the point is, Eugene Sandow was not training anywhere near optimally in 1897. He was a pioneer and a great early proponent of exercise, but he once said that the best way to train was to use, quote, light weights, just 5 to 10 pounds, for 10 to 15 reps. 5 to 10 pounds for 10 to 15 reps? Now, it's been over 100 years since Sandow gave those tips, And in that time, more than 500,000 scientific studies have been published on exercise science and nutrition, and millions of people have pursued bodybuilding, professionally and recreationally. So, for as good as he looked, there's absolutely no reason to think that Eugene Sandow was the pinnacle of natural muscular development. The most groundbreaking study on natural muscular development was published by Corey and colleagues in 1995. The researchers went to local gyms in Los Angeles and Boston and asked people if they were natty or not. They got 74 natties and 83 enhanced guys to volunteer for the study. Then, after urine testing them to make sure they weren't lying, the researchers measured everyone's height, weight, and body fat percentage using hydrostatic underwater weighing, which was considered one of the gold standards at the time. From there, they plugged all their body measurements into this formula for fat-free mass index, or FFMI, which is basically just a number that tells you how jacked you are. The bigger the number, the more muscular. It's a really simple formula. You take your body weight, subtract your fat mass, and divide it by your height squared. So it's really just your lean mass divided by your height squared. This is what they found. Each circle on the graph represents a different person. On the left are all the natural lifters, and on the right are all the lifters taking steroids. And on the y-axis is their FFMI. Remember, the higher the number, the more jacked. So this guy was the most muscular, this guy was the least muscular. There are a few really interesting findings here. First, it's obvious that the steroid users were more jacked on average. No surprises there. But if you look at the individual subjects, you can see that going on steroids didn't actually guarantee that you'd be bigger than every natty. Like, this guy down here was taking steroids, and he was still smaller than 86% of the natural lifters. Actually, quite a lot of the natural lifters were just as jacked as the enhanced guys. Like, all of these lifters had an FFMI of 24 to 25, and while 14 were enhanced, 9 were natty. But I think the main takeaway from this study is that there really was a hard cutoff for the natural lifters. Out of 74 subjects, not a single one had a fat-free mass index above 25. 100% of lifters with an FFMI of 25 or higher were on steroids. This led the authors to state that only rare individuals, perhaps with some genetic or congenital anomalies, may attain an FFMI in excess of 25 without steroids. I fit their trend too. According to my latest DEXA scan, I'm 10.3% body fat, I'm 164.5 centimeters tall, and I weigh 155.8 pounds. That means my FFMI comes out to 24.4. So, is that it? 25 is the natty limit? Well, let's see. This is a list of all the pre-steroid era Mr. America bodybuilding winners from 1939 to 1949. In 1939, Burt Goodrich was the best bodybuilder in America. He had an FFMI of, 24.3. The next winner was Roland Essmaker. His FFMI was 22.6. In 1940, John Gremick won the title with an FFMI of 24.0. In 1942, Frank Late won the title with an FFMI of, there it is, 25.5. And then from 1943 to 1949, 5 other pre-steroid era bodybuilders broke through the supposed natty ceiling of a 25 FFMI. So yeah, even when you go to the best of the best, hitting a FFMI of over 25 is rare, but it's not impossible. Let's go back to the Corey study. There are only 74 subjects here. And again, you do see this hard cutoff on the natty side at 25. But I suspect that if they had more natural subjects, you would have seen more people break through that ceiling. And with enough subjects, you'd eventually see a normal distribution, more like what you see on the enhanced side. Just consider this 2017 study on Division I and Division II college football players. The average FFMI for an offensive lineman was 25.1. That was the average. A nice few players did go over 25. Now, while the NCAA does randomly drug test its players, some of those guys may have been juicing at some point. But I really doubt they were literally all juicing. And I think that, combined with the Mr. America data, it's pretty clear that while it is very uncommon, it's not impossible to have an FFMI over 25 naturally. Hussein Farhat, the fitness influencer from my last video, is 185 pounds at 5 foot 11 inches tall and around 12% body fat. He has an FFMI of, what do you think, 25, 26, 27? Now, Hussein's FFMI was 22.8. Now, I know the issue with Hussein isn't his size per se. It's the speed of his transformation that's suspicious. In this Instagram post, Hussein said he went from 134 to 184 pounds in his first 3 years of lifting at around the same body fat, I know he looks a lot leaner on the right, but there's some serious angle, lighting, and photo filter tricks going on there, so it's honestly not a good comparison. Regardless, let's just say he gained 50 pounds of lean mass in 3 years. Is that possible naturally? Well, let's look at it from a scientific angle. This is a table for realistic rates of muscle gain in men from my textbook, The Muscle Ladder, which I wrote before I knew who Hussein was. I said that most men will gain 10 to 25 pounds of lean mass in their first year of lifting, 5 to 10 pounds in their second year, and 2.5 to 7.5 pounds in their third year. And I based those figures off this 2020 systematic review on whole body muscle growth in healthy adult males. So, according to my table, we're looking at a range of 17.5 to 42.5 pounds of lean mass gained in your first 3 years. Hussein gained 50. So yes, he's above the typical range. There are two possible explanations for that. One explanation is that he took steroids for the first year or two and then came off them before the blood test in my last video. That's possible. The other explanation is that Hussein was quite underweight and seriously under-eating when he first started, causing his transformation numbers to be inflated. According to this 2008 study, average FFMI across 431 healthy Italian men without any training intervention was 19.8. Hussein started with an FFMI of 17. That means at 5'11", if he had healthy, adequate nutrition, he should have been starting at 160 pounds, not 134 pounds. That means the first 25 pounds he gained were essentially just getting him back to a healthy baseline. And if you've been under-eating for years, weight gain can happen very quickly once you start eating enough, especially if you combine it with hard training and a good genetic response to lifting. So, sure, he could be enhanced. He could be lying the same way that Liver King was lying. Except, it was obvious Liver King was lying.
The question has always been, do you take steroids? Do you take PEDs? The answer to that is no. I've never taken steroids.
Really?
I'm thinking about doing it.
And at 5'6", 190 pounds, and 7% body fat, Liver King's FFMI was 29. That's not possible naturally. Not to mention, he had the leathery skin, red puffy face, bloated water retention, and other obvious anabolic side effects. But to be fair, some fitness influencers aren't as obviously fake natties as Liver King. Maybe Hussein is one of them. I can't say with 100% certainty that Hussein Farhat has never taken steroids. I can't say that, but I can say with 100% certainty that Hussein Farhat's physique is achievable without steroids. His blood work is normal, his FFMI is normal, and his transformation, while suspicious, is possible. It's common sense that humans can have very different bodies. The tallest man alive is a Turkish farmer named Sultan Qasim. He's 8'3". The shortest man alive is Eshvin Esvil Gandersvad. He's 2'1". The hairiest man alive is Mike Israetel. No, just kidding. It's an Indian teenager named Lalit Patidar, who has 95% of the surface area of his face covered with hair. 1 in a billion sounds impossible until you realize there are 8 billion people on the planet. Then it's not impossible, it's a guarantee. Someone is the oldest, it's Ethel Caterham, she's 115 years old. Someone is the heaviest, it was Khalid bin Mohsen Shari at a staggering 1,345 pounds until he recently lost most of the weight. And someone is the most muscular without taking steroids. Julian Fitzgerald is 19 years old, and he's been training for 4 years. He's 203 pounds at 5'11" and around 10 to 12% body fat. I crunched the numbers, and assuming we go with 12%, that puts his FFMI at, here we go, 25.0, right at the cutoff from the Corey study. If we instead go with 10% body fat, his FFMI is 25.5. As a comparison, what do you think Ronnie Coleman's FFMI was at his peak? Ronnie won the Mr. Olympia contest 8 times, 8 Sandow trophies, the most in bodybuilding history. On stage, he was 5'11", 290 pounds at 5% body fat. His FFMI was 38.5. I'm sure this goes without saying, but Ronnie was way bigger than Julian. Ronnie obviously wasn't natural at his peak. He did have world-class genetics though. Like, Ronnie and his coaches say he was still 100% natural here at 27 years old. And given what he eventually became, most of the bodybuilding world believes it. Now, in case you're doubtful, which I totally get, just check out this classic study which showed the power of muscle building genetics. It might just blow your mind if you haven't seen it before. I'm not sure if this part is common sense or not. Maybe it depends on how long you've been around gym culture. They took 342 women and 243 men and had them train their biceps for 12 weeks. Then they measured how much their biceps grew using MRI. The interesting part is that they all ran the same program, the exact same program. But just look at how different their gains were. Most people grew their biceps by about 20%, but there were a few unlucky subjects who didn't gain any muscle at all. And there were a few really lucky subjects who gained 40, 50, even 55% bicep size while running the exact same program as everyone over here. There were 585 people in that study. That's 0.000007% of the world's population, and it still had a few freaks. So why are some people so surprised when every now and then someone shows up with genetics like Julian Fitzgerald or Ronnie Coleman? All right, so how big can you get without steroids? Well, assuming you're an average male, you train hard, you eat right, and you stay consistent, you should be able to hit a fat-free mass index of 22 to 24. Maybe 25 if you stick with it long enough and you've got some pretty good genetics. At around 12% body fat, a 24 FFMI would translate to 165 pounds if you're 5'6", 185 pounds if you're 5'9", 200 pounds if you're 6 foot, and 220 pounds if you're 6'3". Some of you will be able to go above those numbers, and it doesn't necessarily mean steroids, but for most people, this will be around your natty limit. And if you're looking to maximize your own physique naturally, diet is absolutely crucial. My nutrition app MacroFactor uses science-based algorithms to guarantee that you'll hit your goal as long as you follow the plan. It's the app I used to run my entire bulk last year, and it's the app I'm using for my cut this summer. We've got more than 350,000 active users and an amazing, supportive online community with some mind-blowing transformations. You can try it out for 2 weeks for free at the first link in the description box below, or you can scan this QR code over here next to my head. Just use code Jeff when you download, and that'll get you 2 weeks for free. All right, that's it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all here in the next one.